What's
is.
up, brother?
I don't know what was. This must be an important message. This must be
It's
a super important
definitely,
message because
definitely,
something
definitely.
was. The forces were trying to keep me off of the dang live
Yeah, they
today.
don't. They don't want that. The enemy does not want this message to get out today, my brother.
Well, I typed in the title of the show about 13 times, and then I just got tired of doing that. So I'm going to tell everybody today we're talking about beyond fear. What a great topic. Beyond fear. What lies beyond fear?
Mm,
Man, I also got to start off by saying, of course, you look great.
thank you.
What's that hat say? Native. Rocking the native hat. What's that mean?
859, baby.
Nate.
That's my home. 859.
Oh, an 859 native. Love it. Okay. Sweet.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
What's that? What's 859? Cincinnati?
that's my area code, Northern Kentucky.
Northern Kentucky.
Yeah.
All right.
So we got
Well, I'm excited.
absolutely, brother. It's been crazy, man. I got some cool stuff happening. I've been spending coming in, and I'm looking for. Well, I've been going around this area. I was really convicted, brother. Like I had a conviction that I needed to invest in my community, and so I've been shopping around right now for a brick and mortar. I'm gonna have my own office here because I travel so much, and then I have my home office, but I want to get some brick and mortar. I want to give back to my community here, and so I've been shopping around at places. I'm looking for a building to where I can do what I'm doing for the people in this area, but also build out a podcast studio and all that cool stuff. So I'm on the hunt this week.
Awesome. Hey, Keaton sends a question in. You know, Keaton always has great questions. He wants to know what your biggest takeaway has been in the first 23 days of this year.
My takeaway is I have been, I would say, I feel God breathing. I feel like the move. I feel like this anticipation, like of breakthrough, like on the other side. And I feel like a lot of people that I coach and I talk to, I feel like everybody's like I feel something's happening, like in the heavenlies, something's happening in my life. It hasn't broke loose yet. I feel like that's where I'm at. There's so much in the fire right now, and there's so many great things happening. But I feel like for me, like that tipping point, once it gets over, brother, it's just gonna pour out. And I believe that for a lot of people because 2024, we've said it, and I've heard it from prophets, I've heard it from people, pastors and bishops and everybody. Everybody is on the same page where they're like, everybody's feeling like 2024 is just going to be this year of just breakthrough in people's lives, and I feel that, I sense that.
What's the difference between a bishop and a pastor?
So bishop is more of like they kind of like overseer. So this place where a bishop kind of oversees. He's like gone beyond the pastoring. He still pastors, but he oversees, like he's a spiritual father to people. It's like Bishop T.D. Jakes. I mean, he's a bishop. I mean, he's still a pastor and he still does that. But I think a bishop is somebody that just he mentors and he oversees and he has multiple churches and on and on. So it's yeah.
All right. Well, I'm excited about learning what lies beyond fear. Or maybe we're not going to learn what lies beyond. Maybe we're just going to learn how to go beyond it. Super
Yeah.
excited. What do you got for us today, Pastor Brian?
Yes. So today you're gonna have to hang with me, brother, because this is gonna give me. I need a little bit of time here, but this is something that has been on my heart. Massive. Just I feel like this is what the people need to hear today, and it's fear not, fear not. And Sean, do you know what's crazy? What is the single most repeated command found in Scripture? Fear not. There's these two words are repeated more times than any other command. In fact, it appears 103 times in the Bible. So why is it that God repeated this command over and over? Because he knows how easily fear creeps into our hearts, and he knows how it's devastating nature. And so God is telling us, I know what fear will do, but I want to warn you ahead of time to fear not. So 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So fear must be seen for what it is, Sean, a spirit sent from the enemy to drive a wedge between us and God. Fear is a trap, disguised as a rational thought. And so fear is not from God. Fear doesn't belong to us, and fear is a trap. So in order for the trap to be effective, it needs bait, and it has to offer something tempting. So fear's bait will always be disguised as a rational thought. And so everyone has a good reason to be afraid. Okay, so check this out. Abraham had a good reason to fear when God announced, I am going to send you on a journey to a place you don't know. And so Abraham experienced the fear of the unknown. Moses had a reason to fear when God told him to return to Egypt in Exodus 2. Moses felt for his fellow Hebrews who were living under the cruelty of the Egyptians. And so when Moses witnessed the Egyptians beating a Hebrew man, Moses actually killed that Egyptian. And so when Pharaoh heard about this, he wanted to kill Moses. And then Moses fled to Egypt and went to Midian. And now God is telling him to return to Egypt, the scene of the crime. So Moses experiences fear of his past. Then you have the Israelites. They had countless reasons to fear when they were being delivered from Egypt. With Pharaoh and the other Egyptians behind them and the Red Sea in front of them, there was no way of escape. And so they feared returning back to captivity. But God, through Moses, said, do not be afraid. Exodus 14:13. And then you have David, who feared for his life because Saul sought to kill him. And I'd say that's a rational fear, Sean. Saul didn't like hearing, that he was about to be replaced by this young, handsome, popular guy. So each of these Bible characters had a rational reason to be afraid, but God was saying in each example, fear not. So everyone here, everyone that watches, you see that everyone experiences fear, and they're justified to be afraid. So let me just stop and just ask everyone that's watching this or that will watch this, what's the reason you're being afraid? What is your reason for being afraid? Here's the thing. It's like, Sean, for the past 3-4 years, the world has been consumed with fear, right? Of COVID-19. We'll just throw that out there. Every broadcast has been filled with information about the virus. And so how contagious it is, the warnings about spreading it, even after being vaccinated. Hey, fear, fear, fear. Everyone has had an excellent reason to fear. And whether it's COVID or some other crisis, there will always be a reason to be afraid. Fear is always disguised as this rational thought, but God tells us to fear not. And so we've spent so much time, Sean, feeding our fears by, listening to the news, reading articles, posts on social media, and talking to people who are scared. And many have joined this, I call it this fear building network. But feed your faith. How about feeding your faith that's inside of us as much as we feed our fear? And how about joining the faith building network? Instead of replying to an email or a text with another horrific story that breeds fear, you reply with a Bible verse. You can remind your friend or your family member that one of my favorite verses, Psalms 91:1-3, whoever rests in the shadow of the Most High God will be kept safe by the Mighty One. He will certainly save you from hidden traps and from the deadly sicknesses. So if there are 103 scriptures in God's word to fear not, then God is trying to get a point across to us. Paul said to the young Timothy, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So if there will always be fear of things that are coming, that next thing to be afraid of, there's this next thing. What's next? I don't know what's next in your life, but I know next is coming. And I know if we give into fear, there will be something else to fear waiting around the corner. And so there will be something else we don't know how to handle. And so, Sean, fear becomes a habit, and you learn and master it. So we have to get used to being, we get used to being afraid, and it turns into a lifestyle. So don't I'm sure you know this. Don't you know folks that who have excelled at being afraid, at being fearful? And you wonder if they stopped being afraid, what would they have left to think about? But just as fear is a habit we learn to master, so is faith. So give your emotional energy and your mental focus to God and his word, and you'll find that you are excelling at faith, and that fear has less of a hold on your heart. And so fear isn't an emotion. It is an emotion you feel, but a spirit. Remember again, 2 Timothy, for God has not given you a spirit of fear. Fear is a spirit, and this spirit wants to fill you with anxiety, with terror, with doubt, and it aims to replace God in our lives. And while God gives peace, fear gives anxiety. And while God sends comfort, fear brings terror. And while God offers you confidence, fear convinces you to doubt. God has not given us a spirit of fear, and it comes from the enemy. And what do you do when the enemy comes? You fight. We have to fight. We must be, fear must be fought, Sean. Each time, I find a reason to be afraid. And I'll close with this. I just want to give some application because I'm fired up today, man. I'm preaching, Sean. When each time I find a reason to be afraid, even if it appears to be a good reason, I have to fight. How do we fight? These are the strategies I use. Number one, the prayers we pray. David explained how he combated fear through prayer. I love this. I sought the Lord, and he heard me and delivered me from all my fears. That's a great song, by the way. Look it up. I sought the Lord. I'm about to start singing. This is what David did. We've all experienced social distancing. We've all experienced social distancing and how it has kept us apart from those we wanted to be close to. We may have gotten used to even accepted social distancing, but we can't afford to social distance from God. The closer you are to God, the less likely you are to fear. David said, I sought the Lord. David was seeking God. He was praying. He was praying, and praying will fight off fear. Number two, the promises we learn. Turn to God's word and meditate on his promises that feed your faith and combat the fear. Try this experiment. Read faith-filling scriptures for at least the same amount of time as you watch the newscast reporting all the fear-producing statistics. We must give God's word first place. Here's a great promise. This is one of my favorite promises. I got this all over my house. Hebrews 13:6, one of my faves. The Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me? See, the Lord is my helper. You can't get better help than God. You aren't in this battle alone. God is with you. He is your helper. When you get a hold of this promise, you realize, Sean, that you don't have to fear. Two more really quick. The practices we live. The practices we live. What are you practicing in your daily life? Fear or faith? Fear or faith? Every day, I work at being a person of faith. It takes practice. It takes hard work. Fight the good fight of faith. 1 Timothy 6:12. If you don't fight the good fight of faith, and you will be a person of fear. Last one. You're going to love this, Sean. The praises we sing. The praises we sing. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Psalms 103:1. When your heart is focused upward and you are giving our Heavenly Father the praise he deserves, your faith will grow and your fears will diminish. Whenever you feel afraid, begin singing to him. Begin praising to him. Do you have a go-to worship song ready to sing? Seriously, you don't have to be around people. This is between you and God. Do you have a worship song ready to sing? If not, find one. Start a habit of singing as you go about your daily life. Fear can't survive in an atmosphere of praise. And God says to you today, everyone that's watching this, fear not. The media may give us reasons to fear. Your family, your friends may give you reasons to fear, but we choose to follow God's great advice and fear not. My God. Let's start preaching up in here, Sean.
Oh, I thought you already were preaching.
Kidding, I was preaching. My God.
Oh, excellent. Isn't fear sometimes a good thing? Fear might keep us from picking up a cobra snake. Fear might keep us from running into the woods when there's a mama bear, looking after her cubs. Isn't sometimes fear a good thing?
I think fear, there's different types of this fear. I mean, like you said, like picking up a snake. I think that's just, are you smart or stupid? You know what I mean? Like, kind of thing. But I think there's that fear of like when a few months ago, I was at Kings Island on a roller coaster, going upside down. There's that type of fear. And then there's that fear that, which I think is normal, being anxious about those type of things. But we're talking about a fear of like, people are like, oh my God, am I gonna get cancer tomorrow? Oh my God, am I gonna die? Oh my gosh, is God done with my life? Is he not gonna use me? I think there's this different type of fear. Like if I get on a roller coaster, yeah, I'm scared crapless, man. Or if I do something out of the ordinary, I think there's different types of fear. Yeah, I think that you should have that type where it's like, yeah, if I pick up this snake, he may bite me and kill me. But then there's this fear that we sit in at home and we're thinking, am I good enough? Can I really accomplish this? You know, do, is there really a why to my life? I think we fear these things. I think we fear, and I think the enemy, I mean, I know for me, the enemy has always told me, Sean, you're never going to be good enough. You're never going to make it. You're never going to be like Tony Robbins. You're never going to be like your dude Brad Lee. You're never going to be like Ed Millett. You're never going to do that, because you know why? Because you were a drug addict. Because you were an alcoholic. You were a hot mess. There's no way that you'll be a multi-millionaire. There's no way. You don't go get an office in Northern Kentucky. Ain't nobody going to show up. Ain't nobody going to sign up. He puts this in you, and you have to say, fear not. God is the one that I serve, and God is going to make all this happen. Does that make sense?
It does. What I also heard, though, in all of the examples that you gave, every single one of them, though, it was that in the examples you gave to us, God had told these individuals to do something that was potentially out of the ordinary. Abraham, pack up your stuff. You're going to go over here.
Yep.
Moses, go over there. Like it was God's instructions, and then, hey, don't fear, right? And I like that. Have more faith in the instructions. I think that, listen, I think if it's a delicate line. I love the teachings today, but what we're not saying, I mean, I just want to, well, maybe we are. I'm going to let you clarify. But what I'm not saying is, listen, you can take what Brian said, and it can go too far, because we could say, listen, I was listening to Pastor Brian, and man, he's right. That's why I'm going to Las Vegas. I'm going to walk straight into the wind, and I'm going to fear not. Like, I'm going to take my $100,000. I'm going to sit down at the blackjack table, and I'm going to trust. I'm going to have faith in the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's dangerous, right? Because that's That's not the message. Unless, I guess, if somebody was like, I was sitting at home
Mm-hmm.
and God spoke to
There you go.
me. It was like, take down the wind. And I mean,
Yeah.
then there's that application. So I think that it's there's a fine line, right? You have worldly things and
Mm-hmm.
desires, and we could apply the construct, fear not, go ahead and do all your worldly things and don't be afraid. Or we could say, listen, don't fear the instructions, don't fear what God is telling you to do. And I kind of feel like they're two different things. And then the third thing is, hey, sometimes fear, that's a survival mechanism that keeps us from picking up the
Mm-hmm.
snake or messing with mama bear. You're trying to jump across 30 feet of a ravine. Would
Yeah.
you say, I'm afraid of
Yeah.
heights, I'm afraid of slipping, I'm afraid of taking these chances? But it's different
Mm-hmm.
if God said, take the chance.
Yes.
Well, then that
Yes.
human psychological fear can go out the window.
Yeah. So you literally answered the question. Actually, is the thing is like the latter part of the message said, what are you supposed to do? Pray, worship, seek God's face, wisdom, on and on and on. The thing is like you have to do the latter part to understand the fear not part. So it's like you don't just go like, hey, I'm just going to Vegas today because this is how I live my life, deuces, and next thing you know, all hell breaks loose. No, you have to get the command from God. You have to be in tune with God. You have to understand God. You have to worship, praise, learn, do all these things with God. Do you think that I just was like, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I know how I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to go, get an office here locally, some brick and mortar, and I'm going to serve the people of my community on a high level. This is me saying it. This is going to be great. No, that's not what I did. God said, I searched the Lord. I praised the Lord. I went in and I started seeking the Lord. I sought the Lord and he answered. Do you see? I sought the Lord and he answered. So I said, God, do you want me to do this in my community? Do you want me to get a brick and mortar? Do you want me to reach out and on another level? I sought the Lord and he answered. In my spirit, God said, this is what you're supposed to do. Fear not. I don't care what comes your way. I don't care what friction happens. I don't care what hits you. I don't care who talks about it, says bad things about it, and comes against you. No demon in hell will stop it because I said, fear not, and my hand is on it. And God will bless it. So there's that's where we have to look at. Is God leading you? And did he say, do this or do that? Or are you just ignorant and you're just going on your own like we all normally do? And then most of the time it fails. This is why I coach. This is why I do what I do, Sean, because I work with people and they come to me and they're like, all right, here's my dream. Here's my vision. This is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. I feel like God's saying this. I feel like God's saying that. I feel like this person's telling me this and this devil's telling me that. I can't quiet my head. I can't quiet the voices in my head. I need help. And I come in and I say, let's seek the Lord. I sought the Lord and he answered. Let's find out where God wants to take you and let's work that plan out. And guess what? Fear not, because God's hand is on it.
Well, that's not to say that once you figure out the plan and you're like, all right, so now I know where I'm supposed to be going. That's not to say that it's not going to be filled with
hell,
40 days and 40 nights of trials and tribulations, or 40 years of trials and tribulations. What you are saying is, in the face of the trials and tribulations, you are not to have fear if you know that this was the instructions, which basically, I mean, and I love that because a lot of our shows come back to that. Like, I think that's the biggest issue for anybody that's watching. Like, how do I know? How do I know? And I love that. That's where, working with you as a coach can help people to get a little more certainty and discernment to know what the guidance is, what the mandate is, what the directions are. I mean, because look, maybe there are times in the Bible where there were plagues. So maybe in a sense, maybe COVID could have been a plague, and hunkering down might make sense. It might not make sense, but we have to get instructions in order to understand. And I think that's why the service that you're providing is so incredibly valuable, because listen, it's a tough world out there. There's a lot of there is a lot of things to be afraid of. And I just want to make sure that, we're super clear. Like, you don't have anything to be afraid if it was
Mhm.
ordained, message sent,
Nope.
communicated to you by
Nope.
God. But if you just made this plan up
Yep.
yesterday, I think there's plenty to be afraid of. And I think
Yes.
that fear in that sense actually is quite
Yeah.
useful because it might help to steer us
Yeah.
back right.
You're right. No, that's a huge point because it will always bring you back to the Father if you allow it. And that's the thing
Mm.
is that's why I say the most important thing with people and clients that I work with is the main, and I'll say it every week to people that I coach. Like our main objective is to build intimacy with the Father. It is to build intimacy with God. We want God to speak to us. Because here's the thing, the biggest thing that people struggle with is all the noise. All the noise that's coming in. It's this person saying this person saying that, mama's saying this, daddy saying this mentor is saying this. We got so many mentors, we got so many leaders speaking into our lives. My mentor told me one day, he said, "How many people are speaking into your life, Brian?" I said, "Oh, about 15 or 16." And his mouth dropped. He goes, "How in the world are you supposed to understand any of that and hear God and feel like the demonic spirits and the devils and the demons and all these voices in your head?" No, you got to X that out. And so I literally have two mentors speaking into my life, and then I have just my line to God. That's it. My God, and then my two mentors. That's it. And because I want to get all the voices out of my head, because I want to hear God's voice. And that's the thing is that is our biggest battle, is we're facing all the voices in our head, and what we need to hear is God's voice. And so that's literally what we do with coaching, man. Is we just are seeking God's face for each individual and praying for those individuals. I mean, I literally, before I even got on this call with you, I actually like that you came in a little late and it wasn't working, because I was sitting here praying for this message today. I was praying for the people that will watch this, that they will grasp this word, that the most important thing is to build an intimacy, dig deeper, start praying. Here's the thing, Sean. People come to me and they're like, "Brian, I don't think he hears me. I don't think, I can't feel him. I can't see him. He's working. He's moving. He's God. He hears you. He hears your cries. He hears your pain. He knows what you're going through. Keep going. Keep pushing into him. Keep grasping and just opening the word and seeking his face. And I promise you, he's going to answer. I sought the Lord and he answered. This is a promise from God. If you receive anything today, just receive that. If you will seek his face, dig in deeper, seek the Lord, he will answer. He will answer in his time, not your time. He will answer in his time. But you keep digging. I mean, business guys, Sean, you know how you got successful? I can already tell you how you got successful. You didn't quit. You didn't quit when it got hard. You didn't quit when it was quiet. You didn't quit when you were suffering and hurting. You didn't quit when you were probably sleeping on the rug at your house because you didn't have a bed. You kept fighting and you didn't quit. And even when you didn't hear, you kept fighting. And it's the same way with our intimacy and relationship with God. You do whatever it takes. You don't quit, and he will answer in his timing, and it'll be worth it. I promise you.
I want to go back because I don't know why. I mean, I love doing this show with you because I mean I just get to play in a playground that I mean I'm not a preacher, I'm not a pastor, but I want to go back because I don't know if it was maybe you on a previous show. I don't know. Tell me this story. God told Abraham to go. Where did he tell Abraham to
So
go?
he told,
Told him just to pack up and
yeah,
go.
he no, he literally was like, he tells Abraham, he's like, "Hey, you're going on a journey, and you're gonna leave your homeland. Like, you're just gonna leave. You're gonna leave,
But
and you're gonna."
Abraham didn't know
No,
where. He didn't know where.
he no, he and that's, but the thing is like Abraham built the fight. Father Abraham, I mean, the song, like he is the father of the nations. He like brought everything. He created. I mean, it came from Abraham, and so like it's
Where did he end up
well.
going?
Do you remember? Do you remember the story of Lot, and then they Sodom and
Yeah,
Gomorrah, and he
yeah.
went in. He was taking him into the promised land. He was
Yeah,
taking.
yeah. So that's what I'm trying to make sure. Like, so but he took him into the promised land, and then Abraham. See, this is where I don't know. I just get these things, and I don't know where I got this. But Abraham then it took him to the promised land for a long time, but Abraham slept in
Yeah, he
tents.
slept in tents, and he told Abraham he was going to have tons of kids and multiply. And guess what? And then Abraham took it. Remember, I don't know if you remember this. And then Abraham took it on his own, and he slept with the slave woman, and then they had a kid. And this is what's so intriguing about the Bible. People are like, why is there war with the the people in the Middle East and this right here, this story. If you go back and read Abraham, it was because he slept with the slave girl, and then this is just like, you're gonna get me preaching a whole different message, Sean. This is like good stuff.
Well, let me come back because so when you said though, and tell me again, you could say like, no, that's not the message. The reason why I asked that is because you said, hey, Sean, the reason why you are successful is because you didn't quit. And you slept on, you slept on the floor, you slept on the carpet, you didn't quit. Right then, I was like, yeah, because Abraham got taken to the promised land and slept in a tent. That was the instruction. He didn't show up and everybody was like, whoa, look, it's Abraham. He showed up, and I don't, again, this is why it's good, because I'm not just like pounding Bible verses at you, and you got to correct me. But I think it says something like he was a stranger. He showed up as a stranger. And I think that's what it like, but he didn't quit, because he could have gotten there and been like, man, don't they know who I am? God told me to come here.
I'm Abraham.
Like, what's
I'm the
going
father
on?
of nations.
These people better get it straight.
Right.
But he didn't quit. And I think I think that there's a lot for a lot of people, that's where that fear comes in. Like, I thought God told me to come here, and I came here. And these people are recognizing me, and I don't have a palace. What's up with the why am I sleeping on my floor? Why how come, it seems like it's a struggle right now. I think that there's also too, when you talked about fear, one of the other things I think is that oftentimes, because we judge the halfway point of the story, and then we start getting afraid. I don't like watching movies, Brian, because like they're too long. That's a long time to just sit and watch. That's why too I watch the time, because I know people are like, hey guys, like, that's cool, I got it, don't fear, I gotta go. But I with the movies, like halfway through I start doing that. I'm like, man, this is dumb. Because I don't know how the rest of the story is going to go. I wonder how many times fear is because we can't see the whole rest of the story. We're sleeping in a tent because we're halfway through the story, and we're like, this is bunk. God led me astray. God's led me to this, and I'm not doing this anymore. And I think that's also where fear not comes in, because you don't know the whole rest of the story either.
That's right. And he was AJS. I don't know who that is. He was told to go to the land of Canaan. Yeah, that was his promised land. And that's the thing is, I think the problem is here's the thing, is like, it's the people, because it was me too, is like, we don't know that it was God telling us to go. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it was Billy telling me to go. It was the devil telling me to go. And the devil uses people just like God uses people, and people don't even know it. The devil's used me, the devil's used you, God's used me, God's used you. And that's the thing, is we have to get to this place in our life, growing in our faith, that we understand, you know what? No, I'm not going that direction, because that's not God telling me. And so like, I have all the reason to fear if I go that direction, because if I do go that direction, I'm probably going to struggle and lose it all. Now, if I go this direction, I'm going to struggle too, but fear not, because God has called me in this direction.
Love it. That's a great clarification. If I go that direction, I have all the reason in the world to fear. That's what I was saying. Sometimes fear is good. You better be afraid of going in the wrong direction. Now, if you know that you have chosen your north, you have good guidance, and you're following this direction, then there is no reason to fear. But there's every reason to fear if you're going to go that direction, which might be your direction or Billy's direction. I love that. Like, whatever the reason, right, that you went in the wrong direction, plenty of reason to fear. That was because that's what I don't want people to say. Like, well, I'm going to go this direction, but Brian told me, fear
Yeah.
not, because God's hand is on
Yeah.
it. But not that way. You got to go. You got to
Yeah.
figure out that where you're being led. And I think, listen, that for me is the number one reason why people need to reach out to you, Brian, because I mean that's
Yeah.
hard. That's the hardest thing. That might be a good thing for you to give us is, some guidance. And it might be scriptural, it might be just some like anecdotal evidence on discernment,
Oh yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
stories of people that, thought they were following, but they
Yep.
didn't. And the other part that I think is really difficult, and you and I've talked about this, is even though some people could exercise discernment, I think people would say, listen, man, Brian is has a lot of spiritual gifts, which, don't forget, I want to talk about that sometime, because I
Yeah.
got to try and understand
Yeah.
that a
I'll
little
take
better.
you.
But people might say that, Brian might have a lot of spiritual gifts. But the thing about it too is, I mean, the world and history is full of people who have spiritual gifts, but because they're human, they still fall.
Yeah.
And I think that's also because that causes the onlookers to look at this and be like, yeah, did you see how like Brian slipped up? See, that's why. That's why I don't want to go on this path here, because Brian's on that path and he's still got his hand slapped.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes we don't credit and realize, like, yeah, but sometimes even though you're on the right path,
Yeah.
you still can make wrong choice. You
Yeah.
could still sleep with the slave girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you did
Yeah.
everything right, and then you got
Yep.
there, and then you still
That's
did a
right.
human thing. You did a manly
That's
thing,
right.
and
That's
it
right.
could mess up the story.
That's right. All of us. That's all. What up, Greg? My Greg's one of the biggest sports agents in the game. I think the thing is like, you have to, that's the biggest thing is like, yes, do we all make mistakes? Are we all gonna slip up? I'm not gonna sit here and say like I don't slip up. I slip up all the time. Okay, we are all sinners. We all make messes of our life without Him. And so my objective, my calling on my life is God. Paul said, "Pray without ceasing." And people are like, "How do I pray without ceasing? Like, are you kidding me? I can't just go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week praying." He says, "Praying without ceasing." And so, what that means, and how I when I look at that, I think, all right, what he's saying is that I am so connected to the Spirit of God that I'm literally seeking God's face constantly. And I am. I mean, and this is what I try to teach because it means something. It's powerful. Is like, when I'm seeking God's face, like I'm praying about everything. Now, this is exaggerating, but it's like, am I going to walk the dog today? God, should I walk the dog today? And that's exaggerating. But the thing is what I'm trying to teach is this intimacy, praying without ceasing, that you're flowing in the Spirit of God, that you're constantly running things through God. That's where you want to be. This is where you want to be. This is, I say it every week, this is your superpower. If people tap into this, I mean, because this is what I'm pushing in 2024, that I am going to offer a superpower that's already inside of you, that you need to activate it, and you need to have God leading you. And it truly is if you'll activate it in your life and receive it and walk in it, it truly, Sean, is your superpower. It will change the rest of your life. Change the rest of your life and the direction. Will there be problems? Will you make mistakes? Will there be issues? Yes. Jesus says you're going to carry your own cross. So you're going to go through that stuff. But fear not. I sought the Lord, and He answered.
I love it. Hey, that's a good testament to why you all need to reach out to Pastor Brian Hall. Right up there, a little top, right up there. See it? Click on that. Send him a message. Tell him, hey man, I need some discernment. Hey, I need some healing. Hey, I need some financial blessing. Hey, tell him what you are calling out. He's not God, but Brian, seek him out and he will answer. I love that. you message Brian, he will answer. He is there for you. He'd love to give you some guidance, some mentorship. If you're looking for prayer, if you're looking for some clarity, if you're looking for a season of discernment, reach out to Brian. I'm confident that he can most definitely help you. Brian, thank you for your patience today. It's a good thing. You got in some extra prayer. You got extra fired up. You came in, you dropped the knowledge. You got some more decaf coffee in you.
That's right.
And I was, and it's true, Gordon, our friend Gordon was saying, for the brick and mortar, I got a great idea. What you could do is you could get two spaces side by side. So you could have You should reach out to my guy AJ too. AJ, just reach out to
Yeah,
Brian. He'll be happy
I
to
would love that.
connect to you. You guys are kindred
He's
spirits.
got some wisdom. I'd love to hear from him too.
Yeah, absolutely. Daycare center for Brian Hall entrepreneur leadership, whatever it's called, right? Then you could and you could have a connecting door. You could drop off the 14 kids in the morning,
Oh,
go next door, soundproof it, do all your podcasts, your content, your
I
mentorship, your
love it.
calls. But then the kids could come over, have lunch, and
Yeah,
other people's kids will come over, and we'll give them good Bible-based,
there you go.
upbringing,
There you
and
go.
we charge a premium on
That's
both sides of the
that's right.
wall there.
That's
I
right.
think
Hey,
you
I'm gonna get my wife pregnant just to make you happy and proud of me. I'm gonna get her pregnant again. I'm gonna have a couple more.
number 15. All right. Well, as long as I get naming
There
rights.
you
You
go.
could do that
Little
too.
Sean.
You
Little
could
Sean.
but no, you could have a baby, and then what we'll do on the show is we will sell naming rights. Like, so like your child might be like Staples, Staples Hall or Lowe's.
Oh
But
God.
you get paid big money, because for the rest of your life, if somebody actually was like, hey, Brian Hall's going places, so I'm going to actually give Brian $1 million, and he's going to name his last kid Home Depot. And so everywhere he
You
goes,
better believe
when,
I would name it Home
when
Depot. I would name it.
Home Depot
Yeah.
Hall, that would be awesome.
Oh God. I'd do it. You ain't kidding.
Yeah,
Home
no.
Depot, if you listen to this, I will name my next kid Home Depot if you give me $1 million. There you go.
But then one day, when you have the audiences, that someone like a Tony Robbins is commanding now, and I know that you
Yeah.
have that vision, and you're up there and you're like, hey man, like I just want to tell you, like, for example, yesterday when Home Depot came home from school, and everybody will be like, what did he say, Home Depot? That's good advertising for them, especially when you get a big audience.
That is good. That's really smart. See, AJ said that's good wisdom. He ain't playing. That is
I
good
know.
wisdom.
I know. Well, all right, folks. Thanks for joining us. Brian, you know what to do.
I'm Brian Hall, your spiritual coach, always holding you up.
See you.
Peace.